Welcome, everybody, to the World of Ability Podcast Network. My name is Emily Gilmer, and I'm a podcast engineer here. I'm excited to bring you another episode of the Aspie Bridge Show with Suzanne. I do here every Tuesday morning at 11 a.m. Central, um, talking about uh, things connected with like diagnosis, Asperger's, and so on. Um, but with nothing further ado, I'm pass it over to Suzanne to kick us off.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of you, my listeners who are here, who are listening to all of us today, the last day of 2024. And it's such an important day. It's such an important day,
It
isn't
is.
it, Lynn? Because we get to really reflect back on the year we just lived through so that we can set the groundwork for the year going forward. And as you all know, with all the awesome Aspies that are out in the world that are telling you what the traits of autism are, the mission of the Aspie Bridge is to help you, the autistic individual who feels like there are no resources out in the world. There's no help. There really is help. I have Lynn Tranchell here, as well as all the guests that came before her, all the guests that will come after her. And I'll tell you about next year in a moment at the end of this podcast. But all the wonderful people who can help you get going in your life so you can be on the front step going forward instead of rolling over in bed and hitting the snooze alarm for another time because you don't want to deal with it. I have Paul Mickelap in Australia who will tell you the traits. I have Samantha Stein in the Netherlands, Sarah Hendricks in the UK, Temple Brandon here in the US. They're doing a great job of telling you the traits. But I don't think they actually tell you how to go back into society as well as they tell you how to manage your responses. But by having bridge builders such as Lynn and all the others who I've had come on here, they're here to take you by the elbow and say, come on, we can do it. So that you don't feel alone. And that's the mission of the Asper Bridge, is to connect you with all these wonderful guests and say, we've got your back. I also have a number of people who are out in society who are making sure that people are treating you correctly. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce you to Lynn Tarancho and let her tell you about herself and how she got into coaching and what her specialty is and why she wanted to come on to my podcast today.
Yeah,
Welcome,
thank you
Lynn.
for having me. This is such an honor to be here. So, how I got started, it was a number of years ago. My mother was dying of cancer, and I had just ended a significant relationship. And I went to a concert, a friend of mine was singing, and the environment she was singing in happened to be a church. And they had a bookstore. And a lot of the books that they had there were books that I had read. So I figured any church that sells books I've read would be a good place to be. So I started attending and I really loved it. I had this sense of community. And then I started taking classes and I started teaching classes. And my first coaching certification was through the church. It's Unity Church. And after getting that coaching certification, I still loved it. So I went back and I found a more secular version, which was Mary Morrissey. I had taken Prosperity Plus at my church from her. And I have three more coaching certifications. All of them have something to do with neuroscience. I love the science of everything, how the brain works, how you can actually change your brain. Neuroplasticity, you can change your brain to support what you want to do and who you want to be. So I just love the fact that brain science is finally catching up with what the mystics have been saying for thousands of years. So that's how I got to where I am today. And again, it's just an honor to be here. And I mentioned to Suzanne that I have two great nephews that are on they're twins and they're on the spectrum too. So this is very near and dear to my heart as well.
Thank you. And I hope your twins will come on and be part of the Bridge Builders, because not only do I do this podcast to give out the information that Mary teaches us, because I'm also a Dream Builder coach through Mary Morrissey and BTI, but the podcast is just the beginning of getting the help they need. I have a website where people can come to me and say, I'm having trouble with such and such. Now, we don't fix you, we fix the problem. And that's a key point right there. So many people are like, let's fix you. You're not a problem. It's the way that you're maybe looking at the situation. So that's a mind shift. That's not fixing you. That's tweaking some of the ways that you may look at a problem. And we help you to create a plan or solve the problem, not solve you. You're not the problem. And that is a big part of my Aspie Bridge. We can't do it alone. I'm a torchbearer. I understand. I can't do it alone. I need a coach every so often to help me. So by creating this bridge builder group, I'm hoping that you'll come forward and ask me for help, and I can connect you with Lynn and some of these other wonderful bridge builders to help you go back into society and know that you have someone who has your back. So today, with this being December 31st of 2024, I want to take some time to say, you've had great days. Yay! That's awesome. We want to celebrate that. But I think the celebration came very easy. You accomplished something. You were able to celebrate. What about those harder days? When you didn't just hit snooze for the 50th time and roll back over into bed. You instead said, this is going to be hard, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to take a step in the direction of my dream instead of pulling the covers over my head and saying, forget it for the day. Those are the days that I really want to celebrate. And I call those silver lining moments. Those are the days when you're like, oh. And I had one in December. You see, I had been living in a house that my family said, oh, you can't handle the house. It's too much work, too much money. You can't do it. Can't do it. Henry Ford said, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. I believed I could. I honestly believed I could. It was a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house, perfect. Allowed for me to have an extra bedroom for my daughters if they came, as well as an office, as well as my bedroom. And it had a garage and a yard, exactly what I wanted. It seemed like a dream achieved when I got it back in April of 2023. I quickly found out how much work it really was. So in December, after giving up the lease November 30th, with the realization I just couldn't do it, what I found was that I had to give up the lease. And I was going to go become a digital nomad. But in my family, digital nomad was equal to homeless. They couldn't quite get over the idea that a digital nomad was someone who freely traveled from location to location doing human coaching, getting onto stages and doing other things. Well, I was also at the end of my money because I do so much of this pro bono nonprofit. I wasn't bringing in income. So I had to go to my family and admit that I was out of money. Do you think that felt good? No. But here are some of the silver linings. One, I have a clean, safe home. I'm taking care of my mom. And I've come to realize that sometimes we have to admit that things are harder than they really are. So those are 3 big lessons. You can't do it by yourself. Here's why I have the bridge builders. I had to admit to my family, that was not an easy family to admit to, that I was having trouble. So you can take things from what seems like a bad situation and turn it into a positive. I learned that the house isn't the right size for me. A tiny house, that's where I'm headed. How about you, Lynn? Do you have any silver lining moments for this year that you'd like to celebrate?
Yeah, just being in this I have a dog and I have a puppy, and I have had to learn to we both went to puppy training. It wasn't just her because I had to learn also how to interact with her. And she got out of the yard a couple of times and she didn't come when I said come. So I had to accept that she was could get out. I've shored up all of the fence so that she couldn't get out anymore. And my goal is to go to more puppy training so that she learns to come when I call because it's a safety concern for her. Not having her come when I call in the yard is fine. Once she gets out of the yard, if she doesn't come when I call, it's a safety concern. So just
Oh,
finding
definitely.
ways to see things differently when you think that like I actually for a moment, luckily it was only a moment, got out the second time and I said, I might not be able to keep her if she keeps getting out like this. So I shifted that to be we can go to training so she learns so I learned how to communicate with her so she listens to me better.
Yay. What kind of
I have no
dog?
idea. She's a combination. She has to be some kind of hound or something because she goes out and her nose goes to the ground and she is just nose to the ground the whole time. So she smells something, and when she smells something, she follows it.
Definitely. They do
Yeah.
that, don't they? Oh, wonderful. So yeah, we all have to learn something new when we're whether it's with other people or with animals, learning how to adjust our
Mhm.
mindset. Perfect example. Thank you for sharing that with us today. Um, so let's look into the future a little bit. And before I do that, I want to go back. Do you, our listeners, have a silver lining moment that you'd like to pull out of your 2024 where it didn't go exactly as planned? Your whole, you had a perfect plan or what you thought was a perfect plan, and it just didn't quite work out. I'd like to take a few moments for you to jot down what that is so that we can really let that go. Because I know, and Lynn, you know, once you write it out on paper, it's a lot easier to let it go, isn't it? Do you have a philosophy on helping them understand why writing it down, not just keeping it in our memory banks, is so
Yeah,
important?
it actually creates a different connection in your brain when you write and not typing on the computer, actually hand writing it. It creates a different connection. And my church does a burning bowl ceremony every year. It was just this past Sunday where you write down everything you want to let go of. And then they have this big garbage can that they put outside the church and with a fire in there, and you just throw it in there and you watch the embers go up into the sky, and that's a way of releasing it. So it's not just writing it down, it's finding a way to release it whatever way you can. And one of the ways that you can do that is to just remember past successes. So when something
Yeah.
happens to you, you can awfulize it, or you can remember past times when you were successful in something else and bring those feelings into the situation. And that will help change the situation also.
I think that's a great way. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So, for all my listeners out there, I'm not going to take a lot of time to write down because I'd really like you to take this practice after we're done. But I want you to write down one situation where you thought didn't quite go as planned and see if you can come up with at least two lessons that you can take into 2025 to really remember that, okay, I'm not going to be perfect. And perfectionism is a big part of being autistic and such. We want to be perfect because we want to be noticed. And we know so often that we're not noticed unless things do work out perfectly. So, by writing down your silver lining moment and then writing down two things that you learned from it that you can take into 2025, That is going to be a perfect exercise. Now, way back in August, I had Miriam Angelou come on, and she helped you with a similar exercise. And it's the same one. But I want you to really be able to go out of 2024 and say, here's what I learned. So, going forward, now what I want you to do is realize that there is a way we can set our mindsets going forward. And that is with picking one special word. My word is resiliency. What's
My
your
word is joy.
joy? And how did you come up with joy?
Well, my word for 2024 was fun. And then I was studying David Hawkins. David Hawkins, what he calls map of consciousness. Some people call it, I call it map of vibration. So each motion has a vibration. And I was looking at that, and it's like joy is a high vibration. So whenever I want to do anything, I want to do it from a high vibration because you attract who you are. So when I am being joy, I attract more joy. Whereas I'm being frustrated, I attract more frustrated. So I picked the word joy so I stay in that high vibration and attract more joy to my life.
That's great. I have a cat named Joy that I do the same thing. So whenever I see her, it's sort of like my reminder. Okay, where am I at? So I love that word joy. I named her that after Genevieve Barron's book, um, Invisible, Your Invisible Power. So I want to introduce you to another book. My book, Resiliency, is all about taking those silver lining moments and learning from them and getting up and being stronger each time you do have a misstep. Resiliency is not about giving up. I give up. No, resiliency is all about taking those off times, turning them into something better, learning from them, and getting stronger from them. So, resiliency is a very powerful word after all I've gone through this year. Now, I want to read you a little bit from what Debbie Maycomber, this is the book I have. Debbie Maycomber, One Perfect Word. And she says the surprising thing is that when we decide to focus on one word for a year, God takes part in choosing it. That's why the word is perfect for us. We may not see at the time, but as we look back, we see that it all worked together. One word, our life, our journey. And I really recommend that book. I love it. I love Debbie Maycomber. She has a couple of really good books. She has One Perfect Gift and God's Guest List, if you're interested in some of her other books. But she's a great author. And these are three of her nonfiction books compared versus all of her. Oh my gosh, I think she has over hundreds of fiction books out there, which I love as well. But this is a good book. And God's Guest List is another one that really tells you that the people that come into your life come in for a reason. It's not an arbitrary, it's divine intervention that these people come into your life because they have a message for you or a way you can get to the next step of your life in a more peaceful way. So that is One Perfect Word. And I love your word, Lynn. I absolutely love it. Let's see. Sharing our words. Okay, which we did. All right. Next one. Calendar. Oh, I bet you're really good at this one, Lynn. What ways, and I know that first what we need to do to have a strong mental mindset is we need to plan in that time for ourselves as if it's like a doctor's appointment. Every Tuesday from 9 to 12 is my time to light my soul doing this podcast for all of you. And you know what? There's no amount of money that would even begin to pay me for how much fun, how much I've enjoyed all these wonderful guests all of you, and just sharing this information. Sometimes things don't come with a price tag. They come from our soul. So I plan from 9 until noon time, maybe 1 o'clock on Tuesdays is my time to enjoy what I love. Now, it may look like it's coaching, and it is, but it's something that fills my soul. How about you,
Yeah,
Lynn? Do you have
I
a
use
special
my
time?
calendar for all kinds of things because if you think about it, if you have to constantly try to remember something, you're using up all that creativity with remembering. So I use my calendar, my phone calendar, and I have lists and I keep track of where the lists are. For example, I have a shopping list. I put it on, it's on my calendar every Sunday. When come close to running out of something, I know where it is in my calendar. I put it in that calendar entry. When I go to the grocery store, I delete it and I move it to the next Sunday. I even, speaking of recent, I even have a calendar entry on December 25th for presents. Because I found in the past, I would see something and it reminded me of somebody in my family, and I would buy them a present, and then I would forget. And they ended up with 2 presents, somebody ended up with none, and so I have a list, and in there, it's everybody I buy a present for. I know it's on December 25th, so when I buy something, I go into that entry, put next to their name what I bought. I also I have
Oh,
I have topics for my lives. I have a calendar entry for that. And when it happens, I move it to the next day. I have a calendar entry to put things on social media. And when I do it for that day, I move it to the next day. So the next day I know I haven't done it yet. So it's a great way to just keep things out of your consciousness so you can be creative. Yet by putting it on a specific day, you know exactly where it is, so you don't have to hunt for it. And then you add it. When you've completed it, you delete that piece of that and then move it to the next day. It just works so well for me, having those things in my calendar so that I know where they are and I have exactly what I need to do in there.
oh, perfect, perfect. Yeah, that's the way because I mean I use my phone calendar for the same thing. In fact, that reminds me that I have all sorts of calendars. I like a wall inspirational calendar, so I'll get up and I'll read the inspiration of the month every day. But I also save an older calendar. Do you know why I might save the older calendar? I save an older calendar because there are books that I enjoy reading. And when I finish the book on a particular day of the month, let's just say October 1st, if I finish a book that day, I write down the title and the author of the book. Now, if I come across the book again in my travels, I'll be like, did I read that book? Well, I can go back through an old calendar. One calendar specified for just books. Because with the exception of February, we always have an October 1st. We always have a July 7th. We always have all these different days. So by using an older calendar, you just write in the title of the book and the author, then you know whether or not you read that book. Especially library books because we can't write our names in them. But if you have a calendar specifically for that, and I know a number of times something will come across me and I'm like, that was in that book. What book was that? And I can sometimes go back and remember the book by looking through the list. So don't throw away those old calendars yet. You can use them for keeping track of the books you've read this year and celebrate that. Each time you finish a book, celebrate it. Maybe go out and buy the next book or whatever. But that's another way to use a calendar. So, you have you ever thought of using a calendar like that?
I have not in that way. I have kept old calendars though, and I sometimes go through them and see all of the fun things that I did the previous year. So it's just keeping track of all, because I would put, when I had a hard cover, paper calendar, I would write down what I did each day. So it was just fun to go back
Oh,
and review all of the fun things that I did for the year.
oh, wonderful, wonderful. Well, let me just skip on to that. That brought up the idea of the gratitude. What if we were to use an old calendar and write in a gratitude for the 2025 that we had on that day last year? Then you could say, oh, because I know a lot of people keep a gratitude journal. I haven't been so good, but maybe if I put a gratitude on a particular day going into the future, or use the 2024 calendar if I haven't filled it in, or another calendar from 2024 and fill it up, or you can use your current calendar. And if you have space in that box at the end, write the gratitude there.
Yeah, I do.
Because we know
Also,
we
when I
gratitude. Go
find
ahead.
inspirational quotes, I put it in my calendar, and when I finish reading it for the day, I move it to the next day. So I'm just reminded constantly all of those inspirations as I move along.
Absolutely. Oh, there's so much that a calendar can be used for, not just knowing what day of the week it is or whether or not you have a doctor's appointment this Wednesday or next Wednesday. There's so much more you can use a calendar for to really put your mind in focus for the next year. I think that's great. And there's so many calendars out there that it's hard to choose. Do you have a special theme of the calendar besides inspirational? Like I like Thomas Kincaid because they have a scripture. Do you have a
Yeah, I
particular
do.
calendar?
Unity Worldwide Ministries has a calendar, and they have the pictures are pictures of Unity Village, and then they have a Bible quote and an affirmation for every month. So I like using that, and I like looking at it and reading the affirmation every day as I look at the calendar. And the pictures that they have in there are really nice too. It reminds me of the times that I've been to Unity Village. So I love the Unity calendar.
That's great, and it speaks to us. When you just get any calendar that the Audubon Society, unless you love the Audubon Society, whenever you get a free calendar, does it speak to you? Sometimes the way to get yourself out of bed in the morning is just to have that calendar that you can look at and do the affirmation or do the scripture or do whatever the calendar has. It's a good way to get yourself out of bed in the morning just to start that practice in
Yeah,
2025.
another calendar that I use the last couple of years is I love sailing. So there's Sharon Green has a sailing calendar. It has a great sailboat picture of somebody sailing every month. So I started buying that too, and I just keep it in my office, and I love looking up at it, and it reminds me of all the fun times I had sailing.
Do you have a sailing dream in mind?
I actually, everywhere I go in the world, I take a boat ride. So I love being on the water. And I did have a sailboat in the past. So um, I just love being in Buffalo, New York. I'm right close to the water, and I can go to the water at any time.
Oh, one of my best listeners here is very close to you. She's in Watertown,
Hmm.
New York. So yeah, she's a regular listener here. So maybe you two can do a social outing, which I call Bridge Buddies, where you can meet up or something and go for coffee someday if you're ever in
Yeah,
her area. Or she's
yeah.
in
It's
yours.
she's a little bit far from me, but that's I do go. My brother lives in Syracuse, which is a little closer to that.
Okay. Well, they say Bridge Buddies is something for all my listeners that sometimes an autistic individual will stay home because they're not being invited to do anything. But when a bridge buddy calls up an autistic individual and says, "Hey, I'm going to catch a movie this weekend. Are you interested in joining me?" This is a way to get them out of their houses because, unfortunately, so many of them are not comfortable calling up someone else and saying, "Let's go." But if they have an invitation, what a difference that makes in their life. It means someone really cares. So that's why I bring up the Bridge Buddies right now. Um, Lynn, what can you tell us about? And I know you've heard John Boggs talk about this a couple of times. Atomic habits and goal setting.
Yeah. So goals, the first thing you have to do, as you know, is come up with a vision of the life you would love. And the most important question is to ask, what would I love? And again, that could put you in those high vibrations. So different things come to you. And then there are some people talk about smart goals. You have to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timed. I participated in something with Genius Unlocked. That's one of my coaching certifications. And they combine that's the conscious, your thinking brain loves smart goals. So they combine it with something that your unconscious would like. So specific, you want it to be simple for your unconscious. Measurable, you want it to be meaningful for you. Achievable, you want it to be in all areas of your life. You want to have full spectrum success in your health and well-being, in your relationships, in your career, time and money freedom. So you want it to span all areas affect all areas of your life. And then what they call responsible and ecological, that just means that it's good for you, it's good for your family, good for the community, good for the world. So you're not harming anybody. And then the time piece is toward what you want. So you want to make sure that your goals take you in the direction of your vision. And by combining the conscious with the subconscious, that creates that connection so you're much more likely to achieve it.
Yes. Yes. Measurable and achievable are probably the biggest things that can get us going. And taking, as Mary says,
A
just
baby
one
step.
step, just
Yeah.
one step in the direction. You don't have to do 20 things that day. Sometimes 3 is a nice goal to shoot for each day, but just one step. It could be a big step. One step can get you going in a direction instead of pulling the covers over your head and saying, forget it, I'm out for the day. And now self care is important. So if you do find you need the rest, you're only in bed for one day because you're getting the self care. I know so many people are like, oh, I feel terrible, but I'm going anyway. Well, if you're going to be having a cold or something that might affect other people, take that one day to really care for yourself. Self care day will keep you from having a self care month because you do get run down. And that's the importance of going back to what I said of having the goals, yes, but also making sure that you're planning in time for yourself so that any illness that does come to you, you've taken care of it in one shot. You're not going to spread it out because the more we neglect ourselves in 2025, the longer it will take to recuperate. And then we aren't any good for the people, for ourselves, and for the people that we want to take care of if we're out for a longer period of time. So I often like, and I don't know, you must have this too, Lynn, is a board where you put on your goals. Have you heard of the Big Rock
Yes.
theory? Big Rocks theory. Would you like to explain how
Yeah,
that
so
works?
you work on the big things first, and then once you get those done, the rest are easier. There is a book I think that says something about eat the frog first. So the frog is something that you may consider undesirable, but you really need to do it. So you eat the frog first, and then everything after that is just a lot easier. And in one of my workshops, I actually I put a big boulder on a road saying, you can let that boulder get in your way, or you can do it and move beyond it. So you want to make sure that whatever you do, you can take a baby step, you can take a big step, just any step. Because as Mary says,
Mm-hmm.
baby steps will take you all the way to the top of Mount Everest.
Yes. And adding on to that is something that John Boggs talks about. I think you've probably heard him talk about atomic habits,
Hmm.
have you, Lynn? Okay. Atomic habits are, let's take the frog. I'm not big on exercising, but if I get up and I put sweatpants on first thing in the morning, you're one step closer to doing that exercising because you already took the first step of getting ready. And for me, my frog would be exercising. Do you have a frog that you find that you have to work through first,
Yeah,
Lynn?
well, it's changed over time. It used to be doing videos, and now videos are easy because I kept doing it. So for me,
Right.
and it used to be, I'm not sure what it is now. It used to be writing because I felt as though I wasn't good with words. In fact, I still say I'm a word
Mm-hmm.
minimalist. So by doing it, I would say to me right now is eating healthier because at the last couple of times I went to the grocery store, I bought potato chips. There for a while, I wasn't buying potato chips, but now I started buying potato chips again, and it's just too easy to reach into that potato chip bag and grab a couple potato chips. So I would say eating healthier is something that I have to pay attention to again. Yes. Thank you for asking that so that I could come up with that and realize doing that. So
Yeah,
thank you. Yeah.
that's what we call partner in
Yeah.
believing, is when we can support each other with non-judgmental comments. And sometimes it's called evocation, not directive, because sometimes we can channel an idea and someone else can get great value. I didn't even know that that would bring such value to Lynn. But by being a partner and believing and asking questions and stating maybe what our intentions are, you help another person to really get focused on what their intention is without being direct, like, what are you going to do this year, Lynn? I mean, I think that puts people on the spot, but if you can share what your intention is, then it gets other people to be like, huh, I kind of like the idea of setting intentions. What do we say about setting intentions for a year? Besides the one word, what do you think people should concentrate on when setting
Yeah.
intentions?
So you want to set an intention that leads you in the direction of your vision and a positive thing that you can do and really visualize what it feels like to complete it. And then take action from that feeling of completion. So that's why it's good to have an intention so that you can visualize completing it and then act as if. I like to say, people say fake it till you make it, but that to me is still faking it. I like to say be it until you see it. So when you have an
Mm.
intention and you step into being that person that successfully completed that, and then take action from being that person. So you be it, and then you take the action, and then it comes to reality and you see it.
I like the way you said that, and here's why. So many of us who are late diagnosed, autistic, have been masking for all of our lives. So the fake it till you make it is like, keep wearing that mask, baby. And it's like, no, we don't want people. We want you to be authentic. But I like that be it till you see it. That's a great way. This kind of goes along with Gandhi's become the change you want to see in the world. Well, he says be the change, but it's actually become the change you want to see in the world. You're not going to do it today, but each step in the direction of becoming the person you want to be, that is the intention. So, Lynn, will you help me in explaining to those who are going to be coming to the podcast in the next 4 months, next year, that there are 4 quadrants? What are the four
Yeah,
quadrants?
it's your health and well being, your relationships, career and creative
Mm-hmm.
expression, and then time and money freedom. And time and money freedom is separate from your career because it's what you do with it. So time and money freedom includes philanthropy, which is what Suzanne, what you are so good at, is giving of yourself. So we always want to make sure that we are in a place of giving of ourselves also, because when you give, you automatically receive. Even if it's not reciprocated, you receive the good feeling of helping somebody else. So we always want to include philanthropy in our vision so that we're always helping others and seeing others become who they want to be also.
Oh, I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you for that wonderful compliment. Yeah, that's why it fills my soul. Is it's like uh, when my brother said you can't do the podcast anymore, it doesn't bring in money. I'm like, that's not ever intended to bring in money. That is something that comes from my heart and soul. It was never intended. Now, I'd love to help others of you who are out there who want to find a bridge builder to create a plan. But what I'm going to be doing in the next year is really exciting. I'm bringing in people, guests, each week who will help you. The first 3 months are going to be health and well-being, just as Lynn said. Next week, next year, I have Noella Jones who's going to come in and get you exercising, get me exercising, because she's all going to be about how movement can get you going toward your goals. So Noelle Jones is my first guest, but we're going to be talking about movement, yoga, dancing, transcend dance. I have that for the following week with Cody Wassil. And I think I said her name correctly. If I didn't, Cody will help me. I have a Sharon Fillmore coming in to help you with sleep. I have another woman who's going to come in and talk to you about when you get that more difficult diagnosis that physically affects you. We have image, we have all of those things for the first month because a lot of how we feel and how we look is all about health and well being. I obviously will have a nutritional person coming in. So if any of you know anyone who does have a specialty in any of the health and well-being field, by all means, I'll be putting out a list for guest stars to come on and help me, like Lynn is today. But I'm going to be putting out a whole bunch from April until June. I have the relationships, and then July through October, I have the vocation, and then we'll finish up the rest of 2025 with having money freedom so you can buy those special gifts for your family and know that it's not going to put you into debt or compromise your fun that you want to have for yourself. So, Lynn, I want to say thank you very much for coming today. Thank you for helping everyone go into 2025 with a new mindset. Is there anything else you'd like to add for today that we didn't discuss?
Yeah, just pay attention. Pay attention to how you're feeling and know that at any moment you can shift how you feel. You don't have to stay in a place of not feeling good. You can reach out to people. You can listen to these podcasts. You can do all kinds of things, even if it's just watching a comedy. I Part of the thing about watching a comedy is Norm Cousins healed himself by laughing. So you can find some fun things, find your favorite joke, find something to laugh, and then you can share it too. When you next time you see somebody, you say, "Hey, I heard this great joke. Do you want to hear it?" And you're uplifting yourself and the other person at the same time. So just know whatever is
Oh,
happening isn't permanent. It has come to pass.
yes, it is. And I like the very fact that at the very end, I would love to increase all of you to be a person of increase, to pass on the good vibes, pass on the compliments. You know, compliments are circulatory, they do come back to you. And learning how to give and receive is very important. But we need to have so much less judgment in the world and so many more compliments. And that's being a person of increase. And I'd love to have everyone go into 2025 with the intention of being a person of increase. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it. It is not always necessary. How do you like this? Okay. Uh, I think that find something nice to say about whatever it is. I mean, if you're not liking the color green on someone, which I do like the color green on you, by the way. I'm just picking your color. I'm just picking an idea. If you don't find that something suits that person, find something good about it. Again, silver lining. Find something good to say, or don't say anything if you're not asked. Sometimes when we're asked, how does something look? Find something that does look good. Be that person of increase in 2025. And let's kind of get rid of all the criticism and judgment in the world. And we can be the first step to go in that direction. So, Lynn, I want to say thank you very much for coming today. It's been such an honor to have you here. I think all of my listeners will find that this will be a good way to go into 2025 tonight and have a wonderful new year.
Thank you. This was fun.
Thank you. And for all of you, I hope you'll come back. If you forget about what we said today, come back and watch the YouTube again. For now, I want to say thank you all for coming, and I will see you in January 7th of 2025. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm saying that. So